Happy Tool Day.
Tool day?
Yeah, got a new work light here. This is something off Amazon. I don't even know what it's called. Let's open the box. It's a work light. That little guy. Anyway, interesting thing about it is I don't know if it's insulting me right off the hop, but here we go. Let's focus on this if we can, which we can't. They've written it so small. There we go. Tear up invalid. Or is it tear up invalid? I'm not sure. Okay, got her up on her side. She's looking pretty good, pretty solid up there. While she's up there, I decided that I would I had easier access to the inside of the roof, so I went ahead and pulled off the headliner bows, and you can see the orientation of them as well as the size of them. That one up there is the first one. Second, the middle piece there that actually attaches to the roof brace supports. The third one and the very back one there. They're different lengths as well as different profiles, and they only go in one way. I also scraped out the headliner insulation, the roof insulation that was in it. Cleaned the metal up there a little bit. It's just got some glue on the surface of it there. They must have put the insulation on before they put the roof skin on, because it was underneath all of the cross bracing. And what I did to get that out of there is I took this piece of 16th inch thick diamond plate and was able to jam that up in between the roof support braces here and the roof skin, and was able to dig all that out of there. Of course, I made a huge mess all over the floor, but I cleaned that up, vacuumed it up as well. It fell into all of the cracks and crevices of the inside of the car here, but I think I vacuumed it out for the most part. Looks pretty good. I like it. I was also able to access this drip rail much easier. Damn it. And clean that all out. It was full of Bondo and body filler and seam sealer and all kinds of good junk. It's got a little bit of light surface rust in it, but I was able to clean all that out. And somebody had mentioned that shaving the drip rails would be really cool. So I was like, you know, I might do that one of these days. But what I did do for now is I removed the front drip rail, which actually just screws on. Get up in here. There are just two screw holes, one up here and one down there, right there actually, that have this thing on it. Give me just a sec. Anyway, just those two screws and some seam sealer, body glue, panel bond, whatever this stuff here is, in there, and it's got a little bit of rust down in here on both this A-pillar and that drip rail. I haven't pulled the one off the other side yet, but I'll do that whenever I flip the car back over the other way. Being up on her side also allows me to see this area in here a little bit better, as far as the rust in the dash, which I'm not going to worry too much about right now, as well as the rust up here in the windshield area. As I work on this, I peel back the layers of paint, and you can see it's got an original blue color, or not the original blue color, but the repaint, thin layer primer, bunch of Bondo, and the original color, and a very thin layer of Bondo. Yeah, I'll get to all that and fixing that later. This also allows me to open up the bottom side of this a bit. Inside of here I've cut out part of this rusty floor pan, just in front of the seat riser and up to the subframe support. You can see how rusty that is. I'm going to clean that up a bit more with the spot blaster, I think, and see how much of that I've got to cut out and replace. The inner rocker looks pretty good. Where I've cut it out here, there's little bits of rusted out floor pan still hung on in there, but I'll take that out. before I put the new floor in. Everything else in here looks fairly decent. And righty-roo. Here's a little better view of the rust on this subframe support. You can see right down in there where the subframe support rolls over, the toe board portion of the floor panel rolls over, and then as well the main area of the floor pan comes up to right about here and connects all the way across there. See where that's connected right there, and that's all thin and perforated. Makes it pretty ugly. Having her up on her side has given me time to think and reflect on what's really important in life. Beer is definitely important. Also, a sense of humor is important. As I look through this thing, I can literally look through it. There's lots of rusty spots. And it's funny because they're like intermittent rust spots. Everything here looks pretty good, right? You get to the end of the frame rail. Oh, look, it's kind of poopy. The rocker looks pretty solid, kind of. Well, unless you look at the pinch weld here or the back portion of the rocker. It's all poopy. Look at that stuff. That's delicious. So I've got to try and figure out what to do with this thing. The frame rails look pretty good until you get to the back of them where they're all rusted out, and the inner tail panel is patched in and poopy down here on the driver's side. The gas tank bracket there is kind of mangled and messed up. It is attached to the inner tail panel, so that's a plus. The driver's side frame rail, however, is not really attached to anything back here except the trunk floor. So that's a bit of an issue, as well as shoddy patchwork. There's some nice burn through holes. I really like that. Looks good. Also, the paper thin metal in behind that also looks like a dandy. Look at that stuff. That's fantastic. I can't wait to shake all the dirt out of that. Coming around here, the driver's side front frame rail section is also rusty. You follow this pinch weld across the bottom here, and I ran into areas that were super rusty, and I just took a little hammer and a small punch and just kind of saw how soft the metal was, and whenever it tears up, lickety split, I know it's got to go. So the plan I've formulated, here's my plan, my grand plan, is patch in this little bit of metal here where it's thin on the other side. You can see how thin it is and corroded and junk piled. Replace part of this guy, patch in the toe board section here on the driver's side as well as the passenger side where it's got damage. I believe that the subframe mount support here is good, so I'll not be replacing that guy or really touching it too much. I do have some rusty patches up there that I'm going to deal with probably first. But as we come across here on this side, I've also peeled away the floor panel where it meets up to that pinch weld and saw how good the metal is on the inner rocker. Now there's a spot that it's rusted through. Excuse me. I haven't dug that out to see how bad that is, but I mean that'll obviously be a patch to the inner rocker. I think the inner rocker's okay. I do plan on replacing the floor pan, the frame rails, the trunk floor, the inner tail panel, and the outer rocker is kind of the panels that I plan on replacing in this current plan. This is the current plan. Every so often I revise the plan and I rethink it and I think, what could I do differently? Now those are the panels that I plan to replace, as well as the trunk floor drop-off panels on both sides. This one here is all patchy. This one up here is patchy as well. I haven't peeled anything off of it, but you can see right up in there some funky little patchwork where they just laid metal over the top of it and replaced it. So those are the kind of the panels that I'm looking at replacing. How I plan on doing it is a little bit up in the air right now. Do I just replace the main floor panel, get it in place, and then replace the frame rails and the trunk floor? Or do I build the entire floor over here on a jig and then cut out the old floor and basically lay it on top of it? I believe I'll actually have to slide it in through the back tail panel area, which is fine because this tail panel is a little bit beat up and completely full of Bondo. If you take a look at that guy right there, that's some pretty thick stuff. I've cleaned it off part of this guy. I thought it was getting better, but it's not perfect, and that's fine. But let me know what you think. If you think that building the floor on a jig over here is better, or actually just replacing the panels one at a time. I'm afraid doing that one at a time, it's going to be hard to make sure that everything's straight and square as far as the floor pan goes. As well as I'll be doing a lot of welding upside down with that. So let me know what you think, and so far that's kind of what I've got for a plan.